Hello and welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Sanriego here, along with Adam, Julia, and Kobe from the Podium Finish. A big welcome to our Patreon subscribers, calling the show Mark and Robin for keeping us on the air. You too can invest in the Grid Network through Patreon or buy me a coffee, a one-time contribution. Links in the video description. And we encourage everyone to participate in the chat room. We'll love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, opinions on all the motorsports. And Julia, we start with MotoGP. MotoGP, they are back. And what a race weekend. They're in Silverstone, the British Grand Prix. And we saw something very amazing. Aleix Espargaro, second in the points, had a huge high starting free practice 4, going off the bike around 115 miles per hour, 185 kilometers per hour. But then he got back up on his bike and in Q2, first ever 1 minute 57-second lap, a new record, but it was a short lived because Johan Zarco took the pole. Aleix fell to 6th, but he showed he still has the speed after that high side. And the top 8 were all 1 minute 57.7 laps, with Quartararo in 4th place. Were you surprised by the competition? It's looking really close in qualifying. And what does this mean for the race itself?
Maybe I was a little bit surprised to see them being, at least so close, and that 8 riders just smashed Marquez's record from Silverstone from 2 years ago or 3 years ago. That was pretty much. I didn't expect so many riders to be that fast to just overcome this record. But I think it shows the place that MotoGP is in, that we have so many fast riders and so many fast machines. Um, it's hard to see and to say what does it mean for the race, because probably if people are watching the free practices or the qualifying, they could see the different aerodynamics variation on the bikes, especially on Ducati's bike. And this is the case we've had in MotoGP for the last few races, that the qualifying, thanks to aerodynamics and all the innovations, is pretty close. I mean, this Silverstone qualifying was just crazy. But then in the race, we have a little problem with overtaking, and we don't see so many overtakes like in super bikes, for example. Sometimes it's just having corner overtake, corner overtake. It's becoming a little harder, but I think we're still gonna have a great race, considering that they are all pretty fast. And I think even though Aleix had this pretty big high side, he still was fast. He started from second row. He still has a possibility to go at least for the podium in this race. We'll see how he's gonna feel. But then we have a super fast Maverick Vinales in the first row next to Johan Zarco and next to Jack Miller. So it's gonna be for sure very exciting. And it's, for now, I would say it's even a little hard to find a candidate for the win for tomorrow, because I don't think many of us expected Johan to get a pole position, even though he was pretty fast on Friday, despite his crash, because he also crashed this weekend. But we didn't expect him to get a pole position. So I'm really curious to see that. Especially that we're all thinking mostly about the second Pramac rider, so Jorge Martin going for the pole position, but he's now in a little back of the grid of this riders from Ducati. But it's still gonna be very interesting. I didn't expect them to be so close to break Marquez's record, but I'm sure it may be a prologue of a really great racing tomorrow.
Definitely the race tomorrow, I think, is going to be really exciting to see. And that start is going to be very crucial, I feel, because as you mentioned, passing a bit tricky at the Silverstone circuit. So one of the big things we are seeing Ducati, as anticipated, they're towards the front. But it's Jack Miller, the lead Ducati factory rider, in third. That second row, it is stacked. Bagnaia, Quartararo, Aleix, 3 championship contenders. They're going to be going for the win. But of course, with those 3 drivers in the front row that we talk about, Zarco, Miller, and Maverick Vinales, they all want to get a win. They want to prove they could get a win and really take away the spotlight from the championship battle. Julia, What approach for Fabio Quartararo do you anticipate in this race? Will he be cautious, trying to protect his points lead, or do you think he's going to still go all out, try to get that lead in the first lap?
For now, I can't be sure. I think he's gonna be changing his approach while riding after doing his penalty, because he has a lot penalty after he crashed and pushed Aleix Espargaro. Because of his crash, pushed Aleix Espargaro to the gravel. We've seen him practicing the long lap penalty like 5 times during one session, so I think he already ridden that little circle for about 30 times now. I think we're gonna have to wait and see how his pace during the race will be and how he's gonna approach it then. Because if he's gonna be fast, for sure he's gonna go for the win. Because this is in his, and for example, in Mark Gasly's nature, and in other great riders' nature to go for the win, even though they have some problems. But for sure, if he will see after some laps that he just cannot, for example, override Ducatis at the front, he's gonna for sure go for damage limitations. So he's gonna go for the highest position he can, and he's gonna try to keep it until the end of the race. Of course, we're gonna see about the weather in Silverstone, because tomorrow is supposed to be a little warmer than it was today. So we see how it's gonna work for the tires and for the rest of the riders. But I think, knowing Fabio, and of course he's a champion, I think he's still gonna go and try to get this podium to win if he can, even though he had this penalty. The penalty, someone counted that in penalty lap at Silverstone, you are losing around 0.8 a second on it, when in Barcelona you can lose 3 seconds on a penalty, because the length of the longer way is different. In Silverstone, this long lap penalty is really short. Which was mostly Aleix Espargaro angry about. So Fabio Quartararo on Instagram, he was laughing, Aleix, how many long lap penalties do you want me to do to be okay? But I think we'll have to wait and see until the beginning of the race how Fabio's bike is gonna behave. But I still think he really wanna try and go for the podium at least.
Yeah, at least try to get the podium, get as much points, and especially if Alecia's a position ahead of him, try to be within reach. You never know with MotoGP. The one thing with Aleix, he has his teammate up there, so we got both Aprilia riders in the front as well as the Ducatis. And Maverick Vinales, he's looking to get a win. And Aprilia, they look really great. And it's really interesting because both riders are confirmed for next year with the team. The team, they lost their concessions really early. So does this play into the advantage of Aprilia, knowing they can focus on the races, not be distracted by all the silly season rumors, and not sure about their plans for 2023 because they're all set. It's just focus on now?
I think, honestly, to be honest, when you talk about the team itself, so, the mechanics, just the rest of the team, I don't think they really cared if Aleix had a contract already and Maverick had him or not. They were just going from races to races, doing their job to have the best race weekend they can. Maybe it's a little better for Maverick because he has a secure future. The thing he didn't have in the last few months and in the last year, we know all the drama with Yamaha. Maybe it's easier for him, but honestly, the riders have a mentality in which they think they don't focus on the championship, and they try not to focus, as far as they try not to focus on their future, even though of course it is concerning and it's better to have a place. Of course, the situation is different between, for example, Jorge Martin or now Alex Marquez, who Jorge doesn't know where he's gonna be, but he's sure he has a place. Alex already has a team, different to Taka Nakagami's, who has no idea what he's gonna do next year. I think it helps Maverick to know and Aleix to know that they have their places. And now they're only focused on their job they are doing, only focused on race weekends. And Maverick said that his hard work to finally get used to this bike finally pays off. He has the pace. The only thing that wasn't working for him in the last rounds, before Assen especially, it was qualifying. And now it looks like the qualifying works for him now. So I think he's into it already, like 100%. So Aprilia is really becoming one of the most important teams on the grid. I think, of course, that it helps Maverick, especially Maverick, because of course Aleix was a little annoyed by this fact that he had to wait for the contract for so long, but everyone knew he's gonna get it finally in some way. So it's more important for Maverick that he has a sure contract in place and that he can just ride. And I think we a little see that in his performance now.
Yeah, he seemed very confident in the post qualifying interview, very energized. And like you said, he said all his hard work is paying off. He is set for next year. Now, two riders not set for next year, Jorge Martin and Nea Bastianini, they both want to be in that factory Ducati ride. They're both starting towards the back right next to each other. Overall, how do you think it's shaping up between those two riders and the Ducati seat?
This is honestly a very hard thing to say because their performance was totally different in some part of the season. When at the beginning of the season, Anea was performing his best because he was also a championship leader for some time. Jorge Martin had some problems because he was good in qualifying, but he had some falls in the races, so he didn't get any points. But then it changed. Then Enea started having pretty much a crisis, and Jorge was doing better. But of course, he had a surgery on his hand, and now he's still coming back after his surgery, and he's now riding on the bike, but he still has a pace. The Ducati said that the next two rounds will be crucial for choosing if it's gonna be Jorge Martin or Enea Bastianini in the factory team. But it's so hard to predict who's gonna come out of these two rounds better because, as we said, they are starting next to each other. Of course, Jorge had a better pace, as I remember, had a better pace in the fourth practice than Enea, and was fast. He had some problems in qualifying. I don't know what exactly happened. But I think we'll have to see who's gonna be able to keep his head out and get the best race he can in Silverstone and in the next round in Austria. And honestly, I just can't wait to see who's Ducati gonna choose because for the last rounds, I need to say I was more going for Jorge. But knowing that Ducati is gonna look mostly at these two upcoming rounds, so tomorrow and the next one, I'm not really sure because, as we said, they're starting next to each other. It's like they're starting from the same place to tomorrow's race. So we'll have to see. I mean, in the last round, I think Jorge Martin was performing a little bit better than Enea when you take all of the actions into consideration. But we'll have to see for the next two rounds just who's gonna be faster.
Julia, you and Joe discussed a lot about MotoGP, but now it's time for your pick who you think is going to win the British Grand Prix in Silverstone. And we have an updated leaderboard to the left of me. So, Julia, who wins the British Grand Prix tomorrow at Silverstone?
It is so hard to say because, as I said, these riders in top 8 places, they all beating Marquez's record. They're all next to each other. They're all fast. So this is incredibly hard to say who's gonna win tomorrow. But I think I'm gonna go a little, maybe for someone a little crazy. But this is a very possible thing. I'm gonna go for Maverick Vinales.
And Julia, we thank you for your time as always. Now, Kobe, we go from Silverstone to the streets of Nashville, Tennessee, where the NTT INDYCAR Series is there for a second year. And oh boy, it should be a good race in Nashville tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, the Music City Grand Prix on the streets of Nashville again. In last year's chaotic race saw Marcus Ericsson go airborne with a broken front wing and later recovered to win, and he enters this weekend second in the points after losing it last week after the IMS road course race. Will Power hit all his teammates last year and had a weekend to forget, and he's the points leader now with 4 races remaining in the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series season. And Power was 7th in practice yesterday, and Marcus Ericsson was 11th. Which driver is likely to have a better race, Ericsson or Power?
Well, when I saw this question, I said to myself, well, Marcus Ericsson, he did win here last year. Will Power, like you mentioned, Kobe, is the points leader and was highest in practice between him and Marcus Ericsson. So I'm going to say Will Power for Team Penske.
When it comes to the two drivers, I think I'm going to have to agree with Adam. Will Power, Team Penske. Will Power, he is really good at bouncing back after a bad performance. Last year at Nashville, it was just not a good day for him. This year, he's going to come in with a better attitude, a better understanding of the track. Yes, there's some minor adjustments to the track to prevent some of the chaos we saw last year. But overall, I think Will Power, his experience, especially in championship battles, he's going to come out on top ahead of Ericsson.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. The experience of Will Power. Marcus Ericsson is not used to being in this position where he's battling for a championship, going down to the wire. And Will Power has been in this situation multiple times before. So I think experience might play a factor here. And that doesn't necessarily mean Marcus Ericsson can't go 2 in a row and win both Nashville races last year and this year go back to back. But Will Power, looking at last year, how awful it was, if he's gonna be out there looking to prove, that was just a fluke or just one bad race weekend where everything that could go wrong went wrong, and I'm sure he's trying to turn it around this year so he can extend his championship points lead. So Marcus Ericsson will have more pressure on him in the rounds ahead. And 5 drivers that could leave Nashville with the points lead. Here they are and where they finished last year. Just talked about them. Will Power finished 14th. Marcus Ericsson obviously won. Joseph Newgarden was 10th. Scott Dixon 2nd. And Pato Award in 13th. It was very tricky to pass last year. Some changes have been made to the track, especially for the starts and the restarts. But starting up front is critical. Qualifying is later this afternoon. The second practice session is actually going on right now as we speak. So making predictions, who do you think will start on the front row for tomorrow's race?
For the front row tomorrow, I'm looking at Will Power. He seems to always be good at qualifying, has the poles. Scott Dixon, I feel he's going to be hit or miss. He will be either be towards the front or middle of the pack. And Pato O'Ward, he always seems to be really fast. Those are the 3 drivers I feel out of championship battle I'm going to be looking at to try to get that pole position. There could be some surprises as well. Felix Rosenquist, he could easily get a pole. Roman Grosjean, I wouldn't count him out either. And overall, Alex Palou, that's a driver where he's just a little bit outside of getting the points lead at the end of this race. But if he could put together a good fast lap, get everything from outside the track out of his head, I think he could contend for the pole as well.
Well, I've got 2 drivers who I'm keeping my eye out for. The first one is Christian Lundgaard. He just last time out he got a podium at the IMS road course and was fastest in first practice. He shocked the field, even though it's practice. But I think he carries a lot of momentum coming in here to the streets of Nashville. And the other driver, Scott McLaughlin. Why? Well, think about it. He used to compete in the Repco Supercar Series, and they've run on street courses down there. Surfers Paradise, Adelaide, Townsville, Newcastle. He has a lot of street course experience. And where did Scott McLaughlin get his first win this year? St. Petersburg. And what type of track is St. Petersburg? Street course. Don't count out that Kiwi from New Zealand.
Yeah, Adam Scott McLaughlin looking like he'll be strong this race weekend, and two drivers I'm looking for to sit on the front row. One who's been there recently, and the other one's been really surprising us lately with strong runs in qualifying. I think you have to keep it, like you said, Adam. Christian Lundgaard is one driver to keep an eye on. Scoring his first IndyCar podium and building and all the confidence we've seen from him, carrying on into Nashville to be the fastest. But one driver I'm really looking at is David Malukas as well. I think he could potentially surprise some people. And we'll talk a little bit more about Lundgaard and Malukas in a second. But one driver I think that has the potential to sit on the pole is Felix Rosenqvist. And Felix has actually been in the news lately, especially with the report coming out from Racer.com about his contract situation. So basically, it appears that Felix actually doesn't have a contract for 2023. And we already know McLaren already announced that Felix Rosenqvist would return in 2023. We just don't know which program he's going to be on, but it seems like that Felix agreed to return to McLaren in principle, but it appears that his signature is not on a contract. So Felix Rosenqvist could be in play to possibly stay in the IndyCar Series and maybe not with Arrow McLaren SP. He very well could be auditioning for a new ride in 2023 outside of the Arrow McLaren SP stable, especially if he decides that he doesn't want to go to Formula E. It really seems like Felix is set on staying in the IndyCar Series and not returning to the Formula E World Championship. So there's some silly season news for all of our viewers watching around the world to follow. And after the Music City Grand Prix in Nashville, the following drivers could be on the verge of getting eliminated from the championship. Those are Felix Rosenqvist, Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta, Rinus VeeKay, who just signed a new multi-year contract with Ed Carpenter Racing, Graham Rahal, Simon Pagenaud, Roman Grosjean, and Christian Lundgaard. Any of these drivers are more than capable of winning. We could end up with a surprise winner like the driver we just mentioned, Christian Lundgaard, who got his first IndyCar podium last weekend in Indy, and he was fastest yesterday in practice. David Malukas mentioned him as well. Another driver looked good. He was the third fastest. How huge would a win be for these rookies who are turning a lot of heads?
Kobe, if a rookie were to win here tomorrow, it would be huge for them because the rookie has not won this year in the NTT IndyCar Series, and there is a strong rookie class. You mentioned Christian Lundgaard was fastest in first practice yesterday, and David Malukas was third. The only driver that was between them was Felix Rosenqvist. So Christian Lundgaard and David Malukas can say that even though it was practice, they can say they beat the best in the NTT IndyCar Series. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two drivers wins tomorrow in Nashville. I think one of those two drivers has a strong shot to win their first race tomorrow in Nashville.
Before I answer the question, comment from the chat room, McLaren does love to mess around with drivers, so who knows where he'll be. Referring to, I think, Felix Rosenqvist and McLaren, a lot going on with that team, so it's going to be really interesting. We encourage everyone to share your comments and opinions and questions with us on the chat room. Love to share them on the air. When it comes to the rookies and Nashville is becoming a track, I feel, a race that's a destination race. Everybody wants to be in Nashville. We see NASCAR, everybody's come to the Nashville area. This is going to continue to grow in popularity. I think what we saw last year gave it a reputation that this is a difficult race to pass, a difficult race because of all the cautions. This year, with some of the changes, it could be a little bit different. For a rookie to win here tomorrow, I agree with that. It'll be huge. Not only because we haven't had a rookie win this year, but I feel this race is starting to take off a little bit more as a race you want to win. You're in downtown Nashville, huge crowds. The fact that this is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. IndyCar wants to be here long term. I could see this race being up there with some of the other street courses that we see annually, year after year for IndyCar, because the popularity is there. All the drivers, they want to go out there to win. And I think despite last year's race being a difficult one, if this year's race, difficult or not, if a rookie was to win it, it will be huge. And whoever that rookie is, they're going to be the top of everybody's list of, I want them on my team.
Joe, I'm actually really happy you brought up the prestige of being in Nashville because Elio Castroneves was asked about that yesterday, and Elio was actually facing a 6 spot grid penalty for tomorrow's race. And when Castroneves was asked about Nashville and coming here racing the IndyCar series, he said he believes that Nashville should eventually become the IndyCar season finale because if you end up having a bad day, you can just party the night away, and just forget about all your troubles. And I do agree with Elio. I mean, Laguna Seca is certainly a classic track and a good season finale for IndyCar. But if you really want to make it truly big, I think having the IndyCar season finale on the streets of Nashville would be massive. And they're expecting to have over 100,000 people this weekend in Nashville for the IndyCar race tomorrow. And we saw when they had the NASCAR Grand Prix of Long Beach as the season finale. How big? I mean, Long Beach is always a big event, but I think having that as a season finale was even bigger. So I think if IndyCar decided to have the season finale on a street course like that, and especially in the Nashville market, I think it would certainly be really huge for the IndyCar series, especially if you get some of the drivers, talking to the local media, hype up everybody in the area about the race, and do a really great job trying to market that event. It seems like they've really the marketing group for the Music City Grand Prix. They've done an exceptional job this year, being able to bring and expect over 100,000 people out to the racetrack. So just remarkable the prestige of coming to Nashville. And getting back to a question about the rookies. Obviously, I think it'd be huge for Christian Lundgaard. It could be a guy Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing could build around for the future. And David Malukas, a win would be massive for him because he's at the head of the silly season talk right now as well, especially with Renus VK returning to Ed Carpenter Racing because Malukas. It's likely that he's going to return to Delcorn Racing, but he's also one of the front runners to replace Alex Palou in the number 10 NTT Data Honda next year because Malukas has really been surprising a lot of people with his performances.
Malukas really surprising people with his performances, and overall, I think that'll be really interesting to see where he goes next year. Now, of course, Nashville hosting IndyCar earlier this year. They hosted the NASCAR Cup Series at Nashville Superspeedway, and the NASCAR Cup Series are back this weekend again. They're coming off one of the most eventful and talked about race weekends at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Well, now they come to a long time track, Michigan International Speedway. Many considered one of the 2 mile ovals that NASCAR goes to and usually puts on a good show. Last few years, with the past generation of cars, it didn't seem to do that great, so it went from 2 stops to 1 stop. However, we saw what happened at Auto Club this year, where the NextGen Car produced some great, thrilling racing the week after the Daytona 500. Kobe, now that we have much more laps logged in this next-gen car, Michigan very similar to Auto Club Speedway, do you anticipate a race similar to Auto Club?
Well, Joe, I can't really say for sure, and I think Michigan and Auto Club are certainly different in certain aspects because with Auto Club Speedway you have so many grooves you can run from the bottom all the way to the very top rim riding at the wall. While in Michigan, it really seems like yeah, there's a lot of room in Michigan, but it really seems like there's 2-3 lanes. While with Auto Club you can really go 5 wide in certain aspects, and the teams have had a lot of time to develop the seventh generation car since then. So I'm not really sure what type of race we're going to see this weekend in the Irish Hills, but we're certainly going to be paying attention to all of the action.
After what we saw last weekend at the IMS road course, I think a lot. It's going to be. Tomorrow's race in Michigan is going to be a lot better. You'll see cars running 2 wide and 3 wide. It's going to be. All I can say is after all the NASCAR viewers are going to get a much better race in the Irish Hills than what we saw last weekend on the IMS road course. It's going to be a really good race tomorrow at Michigan International Speedway on this 2-mile D-shaped oval.
And before we move on, just wanted to make an additional point about the differences between Auto Club and Michigan. With Auto Club, that surface is old and abrasive, and the Michigan surface is it's newer and a lot smoother, but it's certainly beginning to age. So I think that's certainly the main differences there between Auto Club and Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see if it'll produce a different race. And a lot of the races in recent years at Michigan haven't really produced a lot of excitement. If the NextGen Car can do that, he'll be a huge win for NASCAR.
Yeah, it could be a huge win for NASCAR. Be really interesting to see, especially the surfaces are very different. And of course, how will the car react now that the teams have so many races under their belt with this car? Now, many anticipate the winner of Auto Club Speedway, since we're talking about that a lot, Kyle Larson, will be contending for wins on a weekly basis. That's not the case. 2022 has not gone his way. Only one win, 9 top 5s, and 11 top 10 starts in 22 races. His teammate Chase Elliott is leading the series with wins, the point standings, and is looking for his 5th win in 2022. Why is that significant? If Chase Elliott gets to the 5th win in the regular season, he ties Kyle Larson with 5 wins last year in the regular season. Larson went on to win 5 playoff races. Everyone was talking about Kyle Larson being so dominant last year. We don't really hear that about Chase Elliott. Adam, is Chase Elliott not earning the Kyle Larson respect that he got last year? And do you anticipate Chase Elliott to get 5 wins or more before Daytona?
Well, I'm surprised Chase Elliott isn't getting a lot of respect, that Kyle Larson has had last year. Chase Elliott is a well-talented driver, and could Chase Elliott be on another hot streak like we saw Kyle Larson had last year? It could happen. And do I think Chase Elliott can win number 5 before Daytona? Well, next weekend is a short track at Richmond, and the following weekend is a road course at Watkins Glen. I think Chase Elliott gets win number 5 before Daytona.
Yeah, it's really a big surprise that they aren't making a big fuss about Chase Elliott's wins like they were Kyle Larson, because I remember every time when Kyle Larson won last year, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, look at the run that Kyle Larson is on." And now with Chase Elliott, it's just shrugging your shoulders like, okay, yeah. So it's super surprising that Chase Elliott is not getting this same level of respect, especially since he's a champion of the sport like Kyle Larson. And it makes me wonder, what does Chase Elliott have to do for people to be like, wow, this guy is the premier threat to win the championship? Because last year when Larson was doing the same thing, everybody was saying this is the guy to beat for the championship, but nobody's saying the same thing about Chase Elliott. We're all saying that this is still completely wide open for this, like who could be this year's NASCAR Cup Series champion.
Very great point. It seems like last year with that past generation of car, Kyle Larson will dominate the race, while Chase Elliott, he positions himself to win races, but he has had some dominant races where he just gone out there, nobody could catch him. But really interesting points, and I agree with you. I think Chase Elliott, he is a threat for the championship. I see him being in the Final Four. Kyle Larson, he'll like to be in the Final Four. And Kyle Larson was the last non-Ford driver to win at Michigan in 2017. However, Ford, they only have 4 wins in 2022, and 2 of them, the last 2 in fact, done by Joey Logano at Darlington and Gateway. They are on a 7-race winless streak right now, Ford. No win in Michigan, that'll be 8 races without a win, the longest this season. Out of all the manufacturers, Toyota, Chevrolet has more wins than them. And Ford, they used to dominate this. That's why they've been winning every race since 2018 up to last year. Kobe, can Ford rise to the occasion and deliver a win tomorrow at Michigan International Speedway?
Yeah, I think Ford is capable of winning in Michigan, and this is the Motor City, so I'm sure Ford is gonna pour everything they have into this race because they want to. They certainly want to get the job done. And it's really surprising, to this point in the season that Ford only has 4 wins. And I believe it was one of the Ford executives earlier this week said that 4 wins at this point is absolutely unacceptable. So Ford is not really happy with everything that's going on right now in their NASCAR Cup Series program. It seems like in a certain way, Ford is down a step from what we've seen with Chevrolet and Toyota, so they're trying to play catch up. And I can't think of a better track for them to bounce back at rather than Michigan International Speedway. And one of the teams that will probably be leading the charge for Ford, no surprise, more than likely going to be Team Penske. RFK Racing have made some improvements, but they haven't been able to consistently finish up towards the front in Stewart Haas Racing. It still seems like they're missing something as well. And I know this will be a great time for Kevin Harvick to try to get back to victory lane, because right now he's on the outside looking in. And it's really surprising that Kevin Harvick might end up missing this year's NASCAR Cup Series playoffs.
I think Ford is going to be a contender to win tomorrow at Michigan. To give the viewer some perspective, one of the greatest Ford victories in NASCAR happened in 1991 when Dale Jarrett, driving for the Wood Brothers, he beat the late great Davey Allison to the checkered flag and giving Dale Jarrett his first career NASCAR Cup Series victory. And Kobe, you mentioned Team Penske. It's right in their backyard. So Joey Logano has two victories, one at Darlington and Gateway. I think Ford is going to be a contender to win tomorrow in the Irish Hills of Michigan.
I do have to agree. I think Ford will be a contender in the Irish Hills. The big thing, of course, qualifying is when we'll see if they have the pace to battle towards the front. And overall, lastly, we talked about Chevrolet, we talked about Ford. We won't leave out Toyota in the discussion. Matt Kenseth, the last Toyota driver to win there in 2015, so quite a long time for Toyota. The last active driver in the field in the Toyota to win with Toyota, Kyle Busch, 2011. Of course, still no word on his 2023 plans. We know Ty Dillon, he's going to be back in the 45 car again. Denny Hamlin, he won here with Toyota in 2010. The other Toyota drivers have no wins here. Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Bubba Wallace. Adam, is there a chance that Toyota gets a win this weekend?
I don't think a Toyota will win this weekend in the Irish Hills of Michigan. I think it'll either be a Ford or Chevrolet. But I could see Toyota having a car finish in the top 10. So I think, to me, Toyota isn't going to win tomorrow. It's either going to be a Ford or Chevrolet taking the win in the Irish Hills of Michigan.
Yeah, I agree with you, Adam. I think there's certainly a great chance that we could see a Ford or a Chevrolet in victory lane, but I at this point I really don't see a Toyota getting the job done. But it's certainly possible. I think Martin Truex Jr. He certainly needs a win really bad, and this is a place where he's run well in the past. And look at those 2311 racing Toyotas; they've improved significantly in this later half of the season, especially Bubba Wallace. He's right on a hot streak right now. He even got a top 5 on a road course last week at one of his worst type of tracks. He even admits that he's an awful road course racer, that he just got lucky last weekend to finish in the top 5. And believe it or not, it seemed like the pit crew changes 2311 made are actually working. A lot of us were skeptical, being like, just changing a few people around is not going to do anything. But in reality, it seems to make a complete world of difference for Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace, who just only swapped around a few crew members. And it really seems like the chemistry is really gelling right now at the right time. And it would certainly be something if Bubba Wallace is able to try to steal a win in Michigan. About 5 weeks ago, I would say, that possibility probably not going to happen because of how he's been running. But lately, with all the momentum he's had lately, how about it if Bubba Wallace is able to shock everyone and secure a spot in the playoffs by winning at Michigan, especially when a lot of others probably have him penciled as their pick a winner for Daytona.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace, he could shock everyone with a win.
Kobe, I think Joe is frozen. So I'll send it over to you. You know, WRC's in Rally Finland this weekend, and Ottonic is right now leading the rally. So give us an update on how everybody's doing in Finland.
Thank you for that. And my screen actually froze as well for a second, so I just caught the end of that. But yeah, an update on World Rally Championship now, and an update on the Rally Finland. Tana's been leading the way since Friday. Collie Rovanperä moved up to second place today. Rovanperä won 4 stages today compared to Tana's 1 stage win on Saturday. Tonic is 4th in the points behind Elfin Evans, Thierry Neuville, and Rovanperä. Tonic is the only other full-time driver to win this year with a single victory. Sebastian Loeb, running part-time, got 1 win at Rally Monte Carlo. Rovanperä has won all the other races and trying to get 3 in a row for the 2nd time this year. And we'll recap the full WRC Rally Finland on tomorrow's Grid Live wrap-up show. And Adam, now it's time for everyone's favorite game.
That's right, Kobe. Time for everybody's favorite game here at Grid Network. Pick a winner. And we take a look at the updated leaderboard standings here and use the hashtag pick a winner on social media. With that being said, we have a light schedule this weekend compared to the heavy schedule we had last weekend. So let's get started. First up, MotoGP is at the legendary Silverstone circuit in England. Johann Zarco starts on the pole. We all know Fabio Quartararo has a long lap penalty. So, Joe, I'll start with you. Does Johann Zarco or Fabio Quartararo get the win tomorrow at Silverstone?
This is going to be hard. I think this is the race I find the hardest to pick a winner. I'm going to go with Pecco Bagnaia in the factory Ducati. He's looked really good all weekend. He's in the 2nd row. Overall, the Ducatis are always fast. If he could get a great launch, which he normally does in that Ducati, he's going to be hard to beat up front unless he messes up. But I think he's really determined to go out there and get that win. Pecco Bagnaia is my choice.
Yeah, and that would also be a great win for Pecco Bagnaia, especially considering all the drama that happened during the MotoGP summer break. It would give everybody else in the media something else to talk about rather than reflecting back on that incident that happened on his vacation. But I'm gonna go with the champ. I think Fabio Quartararo is gonna get the job done.
And Kobe, even though I'm trying to catch you and pick a winner, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I'm gonna say Fabio Quartararo gets the job done tomorrow in Silverstone, and be sure to subscribe to our colleague Joshua Birch's YouTube channel as he'll provide a watch along for the British Grand Prix tomorrow morning. So we go from Silverstone to the streets of Nashville, where INDYCAR is there for a 2nd year. Christian Lundgaard has been really quick there. Yesterday, he was fastest in practice. So, Joe, I'll start with you. Does Christian Lundgaard, the rookie, shock everyone and win in the Music City of Nashville, Tennessee?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to see Joseph Newgarden, who finished 10th last year. I anticipate him to be in the front row, and he's going to win the Music City Grand Prix. He has been known to controlling a race up front, especially the street courses. Big thing, just avoiding getting caught out when a caution comes out and everyone had already stopped and you're going to lose a bunch of spots. Joseph Newgarden is my pick.
Yeah, and you certainly can't go wrong with Team Penske. I'm watching the practice session right now on the streets of Nashville, and all 3 Team Penske Chevrolets are solidly inside the top 10. And I'm actually going to go with a Team Penske driver who's already won on a street course this year. I think Scott McLaughlin's going to get the job done, looking really strong so far this weekend, and especially right now because he's 2nd fastest at the moment with 17 minutes to go behind Andretti Autosport's Roman Grosjean.
And I'm going to shock everybody. A rookie hasn't won this year. I think that changes. I'm going Christian Lundgaard after his success getting a podium last weekend on the IMS road course. I think he goes to the top step of the podium and wins his first career win in Nashville at the Music City Grand Prix. So now we go to the Irish Hills of Michigan, where the NASCAR Cup Series is at the legendary 2-mile D-shaped oval known as Michigan International Speedway. Kyle Larson won at Auto Club Speedway, a track similar to this earlier in the year. So, Joe, does Kyle Larson sweep the 2-mile races this year and win at Michigan tomorrow afternoon?
As much as I want to pick Kyle Larson, I think Chase Elliott is going to be the driver to get the win. He was contending for a win until he got spun on a late restart. Nothing of his own fault. He's going to come here this weekend. He's going to be fast. And I think he's going to really have a much better performance compared to Auto Club, where he and Kyle Larson had that contact, ruined his day. Chase Elliott is my pick. He's on a hot streak. I don't see it ending just because of something out of his control at Indianapolis.
Well, Joe, I think we're actually going to get our 15th different winner of the year, and I think it's going to be a Ford driver, especially after the comments that one of the Ford executives made about 4 wins being unacceptable. So I think Ford's going to get win number 5, and it's going to be the driver of the number 12, Ryan Blaney. I think he's going to get the job done and make Ford smile.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Kobe. I'm gonna have to say Ryan Blaney gets the job done. Driver for Team Penske. It's Ford's backyard. It's Team Penske's backyard. So I think we see a different winner, and I'm going with Ryan Blaney as well. And next, but definitely not least, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series is at the legendary Road America Circuit in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, a tricky 4-mile track. So, Joe, who takes the overall win tomorrow in Road America in the state of Wisconsin?
I'm going to go with the 0-1 DPI car. I think that's the team that's always in contention for wins. I see them being at Road America towards the front and getting the win.
And I'm going to go with the other Ganassi Cadillac. I'm going to go with the number 02. I think Alex and Earl Bamber are going to get the job done. And both Ganassi Cadillacs are in a must-win position right now to try to catch Meyer Shank racing out front. And the championship, Meyer Shank has been extremely consistent. So many second-place finishes in a row, finishing on the podium. While the Ganassis, they've picked up some wins this year, but some inconsistency has really hurt them overall in the championship. So in order for one of the Ganassi Cadillacs to be in contention for this championship, with only 2 more races to go, Road America and then the Petit Le Mans at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. So a lot's on the line for Chip Ganassi Racing. So those Cadillacs are certainly in a must-win position.
Let's see here. Who do I go with? 01 or 02? Even though I'm trying to catch both of you, Joe, I'm going to have to agree with you, and I'm going to say the 01 Chip Ganassi Cadillac gets it done tomorrow at Road America. And we'll recap the action from Road America tomorrow on a wrap-up show.
Yes, we will recap it all tomorrow on the wrap-up show, and we encourage everyone to tune in, subscribe tomorrow on us, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube pages. You can follow us. We do live streaming on all those platforms as well. And a big thank you to our Patreon subscribers, Con the Show, Mark and Robin, for keeping us on the air. And we encourage everyone, if you want to invest with a one-time contribution, Buy Me a Coffee is another great option to do that as well. And if you want to invest in the stock market, public.com, use the referral code GRIDnet. There, you can use that referral code, get some free stock, and start learning about how to invest in the stock market. They got podcasts, webinars, and a community platform where you can make new friends. Public.com, referral code GRIDnet. And we wanted to thank all our viewers and everyone in the chat room for sharing their comments as well. It's going to be a fun weekend of racing. Of course, we'll do it all tomorrow with the wrap-up show, and then Monday Grid Encore, followed by Grid Tonight with Adam Kobe on Wednesday night, then Thursday to Women Motorsports, and then we're back here all over again for Grid Live pre-race. For Adam Lemeries and Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Santiago. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.